All right, all right. Welcome everybody to another episode of the Hot Seat Automotive Podcast. We've got episode number 2. Can't believe it. I've got two guys joining me today on the podcast. I'm excited because I love both of these guys. I got to know them through the car scene. First things first, Randall Prep. You know, don't tell me you know about the Charlotte car scene and you don't know Randall. You don't know Prep. You don't know Street Cars 101 magazine. Uh, Randall is a guy that is active in the car community. He's president and chief content creator over at Street Cars 101 magazine. He's an entrepreneur. He's a car guy. He's a heck of a dude. Randall, welcome to the podcast and thrilled to have you on this episode, buddy.
Man, thank you so much for having me here, man. This is awesome to see, man. It's about time. It's about time.
It's about time. And you know what, Randall, we've been doing events together and hanging out for quite some time now. And you've really introduced me, because of Randall, I got my first GoPro. I got to tell a story on myself. So thank you for bringing me into the modern era.
Dude, it don't even seem like you never was in it. You're great at it. You have the touch for it, man. You have the touch.
Thanks for saying that. All right, in the other hot seat, the one and only Robert Deason. Here's a guy I met, again, through the car scene, through the automotive community. The thing I love about Robert is not only is he a car guy, but he's a business guy. He looks like a Viking. Don't be intimidated. He's kind of scary looking. But no, in all seriousness, this guy is just a great conversationalist. He loves cars. He's a businessman. He's another serial entrepreneur. And I just, both of you guys, welcome, Robert. And listen, he just started up his garage, Property Solutions. God knows he's got a lot of talent, not only with cars, but in other areas. Welcome, Robert. So glad to have you on.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
What's up, Robert, man? Congratulations, dude.
I appreciate it. It's a huge step. Very exciting.
No doubt. No doubt. So listen, fellas, a couple things come to mind. We're heading into 2024. This is a crossroads. I want to hear what you guys think. In the automotive industry right now, in our hobby, so much going on. I mean, listen, the end of the Chevy Camaro. Not the first time it's disappeared. Is it going forever? Meanwhile, Chevy Corvette, seemingly going strong and continuing to evolve. Randall, what do you think, man? Because I know you had a very cool Camaro at one point. What's your opinion on all this? Go ahead.
And I'm sticking with Camaro too. As much as I love the Corvette, I think the Corvette has a bright future, especially I love the Z06, but I'm real interested in the E-Ray. I think the hybrid is what actually the 2024, 2025 is actually going to head to, just because, people were pushing so hard for EV, and now they're starting to back up from the EV and now going more hybrid. I mean, to me, I think what the goal was in the first place was to make it where, we want to save on gas or whatever. But I think now people are more tuned into the hybrid because people are not even buying EVs. So I agree. 2024 season is going to be something that's going to change everything. But it's Camaro all day. I understand the Corvette. It's a beauty. It's a lot of great technology. But the Camaro was the Corvette for a reasonable price. I'm always going to stick with the Camaro.
So in the heavyweight fight, Camaro versus Corvette, I can see where you're leaning.
Yeah, Camaro. I mean, look, Camaro might get beat up by the big brother, but we'll get up. We'll get up and fight again. Or go tell mom. That's it.
Robert, where do you stand on that?
Well, when it comes down to it, they're different cars for different markets. I love them both. They're both fantastic platforms. But ultimately, what it boils down to is a Camaro is a muscle car. Always has been, always will be. Whereas a Corvette is more of a refined sports car experience. So it's just two different approaches for the enthusiast market. And it's really, I'm not going to say that one's better than the other, although Corvette, that's kind of my lifeblood. But I got to say, they're each have their benefits and they each have their place for an enthusiast.
Mm. Robert, what was your experience when I met you? You were cruising around in a built Mustang. So immediately when I thought of Robert, I thought of Mustang guy. And then you caught the Corvette bug. That's my interpretation. I could be wrong. What's the experience going from built crazy Mustang to getting a Corvette for the first time? Talk about that.
Well, for me, the Mustang itself was not a crime of passion, so to speak. That was a crime of opportunity. It fell into my lap and needed some love, and I spent the time to do it right and clean it up and get it running well. And I've always been a champion of the underdog. So I like to take something that nobody else wanted or nobody else thought could do something and really turn it into something special. And that's what I got the opportunity to do with that Mustang. Once I got it where I wanted it to go, then it was just a matter of finding the next project. It was time to move on. So, I found the next thing for me was a C6 Corvette, and I took a base model Corvette and I've turned it into something that I really love.
Now, Robert, have you always been a mechanically inclined dude? Have you always been wrenching on stuff? Like, has this been a hobby now turned into a business? Like, just talk, because you're a guy from the day I met you, like you could go pretty hard and deep when talking about engines and mods. Go ahead.
Well, growing up, I was always around cars, whether it was the dirt track, the drag strip. It was not uncommon to spend time with my older brother out under the shade tree in the backyard, swapping an engine from a small block Chevy, square body Chevrolet into an old Camaro, and that was kind of a weekly occurrence around my house. So that's something I spent a lot of time doing. When I graduated high school, I went straight off to school for engineering. And to me, like the mechanics of things and understanding how they work, it's a very intuitive process. So I've never met a problem I can't solve. And when it comes to cars, everybody's got something unique to bring to the table that they want to accomplish. And that's my goal, is to help people accomplish those goals.
Oh my God, I love it. Shifting gears over to you, Randall. So what got you into this? I don't think I ever asked, Randall. I mean, God knows we've broken bread and raised hell a lot over the past few years, but
Yes, we have.
I plead the fifth. But no, what got you into the hobby? Did you grow up as a gearhead? Were you turning wrenches? Go ahead.
My uncle used to have me in a garage every now and then, but my uncle drag raced motorcycles. So my mom rode motorcycles, my uncle raced motorcycles, and then there used to be a whole bunch of people with motorcycles that come to my house. At my grandma's house, there is a 8-mile strip to get to my grandma's house, straight road. So before bike week, everybody would come to the house. We'd have a cookout, and you'll be seeing burnouts and wheelies and people learning to ride their motorcycles and everything near the house. So I really wasn't too much in the cars. My mom is the person that taught me how to drive a manual transmission. My uncle taught me how to drive a tractor, truck. Like, I didn't really know anything about cars except how to drive it. I didn't actually get into the car scene until after my business Auto Plaza deals, which kind of opened the door to everything that you see today. So I was never car. I mean, the beauty of the magazine is I get to learn about cars, while at the same time, putting together marketing and everything for everyone else.
So wait a minute. That's interesting to me. Are you the outcast of the family now, Randall, because you went from 2-wheel to a 4-wheel cage?
I don't know, because my mom loved, so my mom had a BMW, my uncles had a BMW and a Porsche, if I want to say it correctly. My uncle used to have to work on the Porsche a lot. My mom still has the BMW. They have the cars. My mom had 7 cars. My uncle had 9 cars. And my aunts have around 3 to 4 cars. I was around cars. It's just I didn't care for them like that. At that time, I was actually into music. So now them seeing me in the cars, if anything, my mom is happy because she wants me to get another race car. And she's on me constantly about getting a race car. So.
Got it. Now, listen, you got to behind every great person, there's an origin story. So, Robert, we got to address the elephant in the room. No, we got to address the hog in the room. What is that behind you?
That would be my two-wheeled play toys. So that's a 2022 Harley Lowrider S. I absolutely love the platform. It was something that I kind of treated myself to last year. I had a bike years ago. I learned to ride simply in memory of my brother who passed away after a motorcycle accident. And I had been without a motorcycle for several years. And I came across the new Lowrider lines and absolutely fell in love with it and decided I was going to get another one.
That's nice,
Incredible.
dude.
So on that topic, and here we are, hot seat automotive. Let's talk about Harley for a minute because if I think about going into 2024, fellas, and as we look ahead with predictions and just kind of what's going on, what's up with the Harley brand, man? Like, what is it? 10 years ago, they were the number one brand. I'm kind of paraphrasing here, but some of the stuff I've seen, like they went from having massive growth, stability, making a comeback, to their sales are a fraction of what they were 10 years ago. Is that a dying brand? Is that a dying breed? What the hell's going on with Harley?
Now,
I was gonna say, go ahead, Rob. Go ahead.
I definitely don't think that's the case. I think what we're seeing is the results of a dying generation, which is leading the brand to go in a different direction. So, old school bikers, you think of old school bikers and Harley riders, you've got the big baggers, the cruisers, and, generally an older crowd now. But in the last 4 or 5 years, you've seen Harley's new product lines geared more towards the aggressive styling, the lightened chassis, the heavier horsepower, with combined with those things with more aggressive handling. And you're seeing these street bikes that can keep up, or these Harleys that can keep up with a lot of street bikes and look good doing it.
I was going to say, to feed off what you're saying, Robert, I say it's three things. It's horsepower, it's technology, and then it's pretty much social media. It's marketable. Harley is not that marketable compared to like Honda, Kawasaki, and et cetera, all the new brands that's coming. I think technology and the horsepower right now is what people chase after, especially younger people. That's what they go after. But the Harleys, I think if they play their market share correctly, I think they can actually get to where they at least be the top two again.
Realistically, the separating factor, I think, comes down to price. Price for performance, you can get a much higher tier performance out of an imported street bike than you can out of a Harley.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. You bring up an interesting point, both of you actually. Why was Buell a failed experiment then? Do you see Buell as a failure? I never owned one, but God knows I admired them and sort of tracked their trajectory. Why didn't that? Why are there no more Buells if what you're saying is true? Just what are your thoughts on that?
Branding and marketing, 100%.
Yep. Yeah, that's all it is.
They were catering to a portion of the market that they didn't have the right optics for, with a product that didn't fit their core brand.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Kind of interesting. As I look at your bike, and I've seen your bike in person, Robert, it's beautiful. But it's also very sleek and cool, and it's blacked out. Like when I think about the Harleys, like when I was growing up, and the biker dudes and the Harley dudes who had them, they were chromed out. It was just another era. It was a generational thing. And to your point, guys in their 20s, 30s, 40s, yeah, not so much. So, yeah, your bike looks to me like sort of the evolution coming into the modern era, plus all the technology stuff you mentioned.
So, quick question. What type, now the type of bike that you got, Robert, what would they consider that type of bike? I've always loved that style. To me, that's like the one you put a helmet on and you go across the country. I've seen the cruisers and everything, but what style bike is that you have? What would you consider that style?
So it's called a Lowrider S. It's built kind of off of a Dyna platform with soft tail suspension. So you ended up with a more low slung rear suspension with a forward rake front suspension, which catered to more towards more aggressive handling, and then a low center of gravity. I mean, that bike is all motor. It's one of the largest production Harley engines that they've put on a Harley to date. and it's on a chassis that weighs nothing. So when it comes down to it, it's torque to weight ratio, and it's a ton of fun.
Looks comfortable.
It is. I've done a couple of small modifications for my personal comfort because I'm a big guy, and I have a box of other goodies to add on. But no, it's good for long rides, and it's a lot of fun in the aggressive twisties too.
Awesome.
I wanna pivot here for a moment. We're covering a lot of ground, which I like, and I got the two guys. You know, I think we all value your perspective, fellas. EVs. I want to hear, you know, listen, Randall, I'll start with you. Where are we at with EVs? And what do you foresee in the next 24 months? I remember when I saw my first Tesla, and to me, it looked like a rich guy's toy. And I said to myself, you know, nobody's going to buy that. And fast forward, I was wrong. And I'll be the first to admit it. Tesla's everywhere. Now I understand the market is slowed. What's going on with EVs? Go ahead, Randall.
There was a weird thing at SEMA last year. So SEMA this year and last year. SEMA last year, the goal was to make sure you know about EV before you leave, right? They had almost a quarter of a building directed towards EV. This year they had it more, it was EVs there, but it was a lot of hybrids. And then there was a lot of cars that was actually designed and built to beat the EV. I think now that the people have now gained the knowledge of EV, and I think EV has kind of lost that push. It lost the push because of inflation and everything that's going on in the market, but it also lost the push as in marketing wise, because people are now seeing that, for one, it's too expensive, and for a combustion engine, yeah, you can go faster in a straight line, you can turn maybe. But why would people completely get rid of a combustion engine for an EV? I think if they would have came on it as in a way of a hybrid, or maybe saying you can have both, I think it would have worked out. But instead of, it's kind of like the auto market is trying to say that eventually you're going to have an EV. And I think that was the mistake that they made. I have nothing against EV. I mean, me and you have talked about it. I've looked at the Tesla. I mean, I look at the prices of the leases, which are very, very, very affordable. I mean, you can get a Model 3 right now for $349 a month on a lease. I just don't think it's not there yet. It's just not there yet. I said maybe 3 more years, at least until everything else balances out. I did like what Brian Barr said yesterday on your podcast when I was watching it, was the world is now caught up to pre-COVID. And I think with that, I think EV is actually going to get pushed back 2 years, because it seemed like COVID forced it up upon us. So that's how I look at EV.
Robert, thanks, Randall. Robert, you agree with that?
Well, I think what it comes down to is you've got different segments of the market. Now, if we're looking at the car enthusiast market, which is who we are, what we are, right? Nobody can argue with the raw performance that's possible out of an EV in the short term. The instant torque vectoring, the amount of control you have over what you're putting down on the pavement. But I like to use the microwave analogy, right? You could microwave something and get it hot in 2 minutes, but nobody ever really wanted a microwaved hamburger, right? I mean, it's not the same experience.
You got to take the bread out. That's all.
No, I mean, you see stuff like Ken Block, who did the Electricana with the all-wheel drive Audi, like absolutely unbelievable what they can do now. But when it comes down to it, for the average person, you're not going to be able to get the same kind of performance for, there you go, there again, performance per dollar for the average enthusiast.
Would you say performance, or would you say excitement? Because to me, I think it's excitement. When I hear a motor go past me, I'm trying to guess what it is. Like, ooh, what is that? Is that a V8? That's a rotary motor. When you hear an EV go by, is that a tree? Is that air? Like, what happened? Somebody threw a paper plane. Like,
well, let me throw this out there, because you guys are touching on something I think is really interesting. I want to hear your thoughts on this. 3 car guys on this podcast, and I think we buy with passion. We buy with passion, don't we? We got to feel it. We got to hear it. We got to lust after it. We got to, it's got to make us feel a certain way. Looking at it, driving it, hearing it, reactions to the car, talking about the car. It's passion based for some of us. EV, and maybe not everybody agrees with me, and that's okay. EV is more mission based. Like, people are really excited about, well, I'm not burning fossil fuels. And listen, I'm getting infinity miles per gallon, or I'm contributing to the greater good. That's just very different. I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's an A to B car. I want one just to drive to work and back and maybe drive a couple events and save gas. That's it. I don't want it for no other reason. I don't want the technology. I don't care how fast it goes in a straight line. I don't care about the instant torque. I do like Elon, but I don't care he's over it. Like, none of that grabs my attention. Like, it just doesn't. Only thing it's for is because I feel like it's mandatory and I want to save on going to work. Boring job, boring car. That's how I look at it.
Well, and to your point, for tooling around town, for most of us, as they talk about range anxiety and all these things, it's not a factor for a lot of us who have predictable commutes, predictable, lifestyles with a local car. But let me ask you this, Robert, will we ever see Robert Deason in an EV?
That's a hard one to say. Honestly, one of the things that's held EVs back has been technology that's available for, essentially power storage, right? Battery technology. And if you look at a Tesla, if you look at a Tesla Plaid right now, the curb weight is almost or right around 5,000 pounds. So yes, you're, on paper, it's 1,000 horsepower, but you're talking about something that's 5,000 pounds. You're not going to get the same experience in the cornering and the quickness and the feel and the experience, along with the raw power and the sound and everything that comes along with that. So to me, like, it holds no appeal. I could see driving a hybrid in certain situations, but I really have no desire to own an EV.
What if they take all the corners away and it just be straightaways everywhere? What about then?
Then I just lost all interest in driving.
Well, wait a minute. Let's be honest, Randall. Be honest. If you were someplace and Robert showed up 6.5 feet tall with the beard, the long hair, in a Cybertruck, that sounds like something out of a television movie, like a monster movie. The Terminator's coming back.
Yeah.
I think I'd like to see that, actually.
I think I'll just stare at him eating a donut, like, but that's how you feel. Hey, that's what I say to him.
All right, I want to shift gears here. This is hot stove, hot seat. Let's talk about something that is controversial and kind of makes me sad, but also gets me angry. And I want to hear what you guys think, because you're right.
I already know where this is going.
Well, listen, the takeover culture. What's going on in the car scene that's given us, even the guys over a certain age, don't make fun of me, but in all seriousness, that gives us in our hobby a bad name. I'm talking about street takeovers. I'm talking about street racing. Is this inevitable? Randall, what do you think? What's going on in the car community, dude?
So I talk to a lot of city councils and I talk to a lot of officers just because of the magazine. I always network, they kind of let me know their messages of what they want to share. I can go ahead and say that if they could shut every car event down and make it where it's possible not to happen, they would do it. They would do it. They're sick of it. They're tired of it. And I think they're more tired of it than the people that host events and everything. To me, I've always stated this and people laughed at me when I said this. To me, I think this is a war. I think this is a war that's done purposely. And it comes down to when you see takeovers, a lot of times you see cars that a lot of people at regular car events probably laughed at, said something to them, and they're like, well, we've been wanting to have an event here and you told us no because we didn't have this type of car. It was just one person. And now it seems like that, well, if we can't have an event here, then you can't have an event either. And we're willing to risk it all. But I don't like to say it this way either. I feel like with our generation, my generation, we did burnouts. We did a lot of stuff. We just didn't have video cameras. We didn't have a way where it became 1,000 likes, 10,000 likes on social media. So to me, I think the real question is, what have social media kind of done to the car scene? Which is, it opened the doors where people can market themselves as brand and products and everything, but at the same time, it gives clout. Clout is a drug. People don't look at it that way. It's a very addictive drug. And when you give somebody 21 with a fast car, I mean, I ain't never had no 500 horsepower car when I was in my 20s. I don't know. It's becoming sad. That's why I say 2024 is going to be an interesting season for a lot of stuff, because a lot of things are going to come to an end, and a lot of things are going to begin. A lot of things are going to change. Just nobody knows how. It's unpredictable.
Robert, what do you think?
I think you touched on it. I think it's twofold. So when it comes to streetcar takeovers and all the craziness that we're seeing, I think social media and influencers, I mean, that's a huge part of it. It's all about attention. It's all about clout. It's all about getting out there, getting your face out there, and what drives views and what gets attention. So with that, it becomes more prevalent in the news. It becomes a bigger problem because more people are aware of it. I know for a fact there have been multiple intersection takeovers around Charlotte in the last couple of weeks. But, 10 years ago, you wouldn't have heard about it. It happened, but you didn't hear about it, right? Now everybody's got a phone out and videotaping it. The other side of that, you got, to your point, you've got 500 horsepower in these cars rolling off the lot, and 21, 22-year-olds driving them. When we're young, we're dumb. It's a fact of life, and we all want to show off and show out. But we don't have an accessible outlet for youth motorsports. It's not, I mean, that's essentially, it's basically divided by class. You have to live a certain type of life and have access to a certain level of funds to be a part of that life. And if you don't, your only option is to do it on the street because you can't afford to go to the track.
Well, look, to go against that last part, actually, we do have the track. And I guess they don't market themselves enough. Like you got MD Drift, you got Piedmont Dragway, you have, what's the spot? You got Low Key, you got all of these places that get access to tracks. To get on them tracks cost me $20, $30. I mean,
you got Rockingham.
Examples. You're sharing fantastic examples, but those are not the norm. That's not the same everywhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, so you guys bring up some points, and listen, we're not going to solve world hunger here, are we? But listening to you guys talk, I don't disagree with anything you said. I'm not big on excuses, though. I'll tell you, to say, well, this generation doesn't have this, it doesn't have that, or let's blame social media. All contributing factors. I do say, and maybe it's the dad in me, fellas, but it's like leaders got to lead. Adults got to do the next right thing, and businesses got to take accountability. What do I mean by that? I'm not throwing shade at anybody, but you're going to organize an event, you're going to put on an event, you do the right thing. You hire law enforcement, you hire or security, you have the right staff. There are countless events that do all these things, and they do it right. But that comes with expense. On the other end of the continuum, you have pop-ups. You have folks who, I want to do a car event, but they're not willing to do the right thing or to be the leader. In some cases, to be the bad guy. So, it's like, you're going to lead, that's action. Doing the right thing is hard. But I do think, and it wouldn't solve the problem for all the reasons you fellows mentioned, but we would see improvements if businesses, leaders in the community said, look, we're going to do it. We're going to do it right this year. Here's how. What do you think about that?
I think that's the right approach. I think that's the only approach. It's always been that approach. Again, Robert, I hate to say it this way, it's not disagreeing it, but Robert said it best, it's not to the norm. A lot of people don't know to go look for event insurance. They don't know to go get law enforcement. It's like, as a kid, your goal as a kid was to not get law enforcement involved in what you do, or to not, you kind of want to play it. You want to play it unsafe. You want to be dangerous. The problem is it's too much horsepower now, and you're messing up people's locations. You're messing up property that not only does the person doing the stupidity not own, but the person hosting the event probably doesn't own. You're risking yourself. It's not worth the risk. But again, I hate to say it, social media is the cause. A guy would get ran over with a car for 20,000 likes. He would do it. He'd do it all day.
Well, let me throw this out there, because I think you nailed it, as evidenced by countless TikToks and Instagram videos. But in all seriousness, me growing up, child of the 80s, you guys will laugh at this, but my first car, 83 Pontiac Grand Prix with the 3.8 liter V6, literally about 100 horsepower, and you don't want to know the torque. Couldn't really accelerate going up a hill. I wanted the V8. I wanted the Monte Carlo SS. My father would not allow me to get a V8. And, at that time, I was mad as hell. That was his way of doing the right thing. Fast forward, a couple buddies, long story short, back in the 80s, two of them were racing. My buddy and I were behind in another car, and we saw the police pull them over. Fast forward, long story short, my one buddy, childhood friend, his father took away his license for a month. Why do I share that? Not to sound like, let's talk about generational differences, but I do think that parents have some accountability here to do the right thing. Like, when and if kids get sideways, they got to have some repercussions. They got to be accountable. So there's so much contributing to this. But again, leaders in the community, parents, because a point was just made. Robert, you made the point, like, you were young once. Randall, you were young once. I was young once, believe it or not. We all did crazy stuff. But again, there's levels to parenting. There's levels to leadership. Youth today needs guidance. I know that sounds wacky, but I do think that's a part of it. Go ahead.
But even with the parents, though, some of these kids are TikTok, Instagram stars. Some of them are already making 150 grand to where they can go buy their car without their parents. Only thing their parent can do is just get on their insurance. That's it. It's definitely generational. It's definitely different. Generations change.
That brings up another point, though, because you talk about in the 80s, your car was 100 horsepower if you're lucky, right? Whereas these kids are rolling, 16, 17, 19, 20 years old with 500-600 horsepower cars. You're not giving these kids the opportunity to grow as a driver as they grow and build a car. And that was one of the appeals for me growing up and coming up and being in the different environments is you take something that maybe it wasn't special and you customize it and you build it to make it your own. And it got better as you got better and you grew together. But now you're having people stepping in these $60,000, $70,000 cars with 700 horsepower and they have no clue what to do with them or how to handle them.
Well, most of them ain't even car enthusiasts, though. Most of them just buyers. They got the money to go buy a Hellcat. It's the most popular thing. I'm going to go buy that. And I think that's a big thing, too, is people that love a car won't damage it. I mean, they'll rag it out every now and then, but they'll do their best not to damage it.
Guys, I want to shift gears again. This is fun, and then kind of wrap up. I want to put you guys both on the hot seat. But Randall, give us a summary. You were out at SEMA this year. You were out at SEMA last year. I almost jumped on a plane and went out there and darkened your door. I didn't. What do our listeners need to know about SEMA this year? Tell us what you interviewed everybody, and you were everywhere. I was following you. You know that. But in all seriousness, what's your key takeaway from SEMA this year?
SEMA last year was aiming towards EV. They was really pushing EV. SEMA this year was kind of just pushing love your vehicle. Like, love your vehicles. And there's a bunch of new products that's going to be coming out, but there really wasn't too many products that stood out. It was more so of the car builds that stood out. Me and Samantha with Car Scene Report, we was talking about this. A lot of the cars you saw this year was the Skylines. It was a lot of Skylines at SEMA this year.
Interesting.
And there was a lot of trucks. I think 2024 is actually going to be the truck series. You got the Raptors, you got the TRX, you got the GMC, the Sierra. I think trucks are actually going to be a big thing this year. Like last year, it was kind of Jeeps, in my opinion, but there was a lot of trucks there. And I don't mean trucks that's lifted up. I mean trucks with 1,200 horsepower, trucks that can outrun some of these cars. So SEMA, I would say this year, if anything with SEMA, because I was everywhere, the best way I can sum it up is it's kind of going to be a car enthusiast world. Again, it's going to be driven by passion. The car scene and the automotive industry is going to be driven by, do you love your build? And if you don't love your build, you're going to work on it. You're going to build it up more. Again, a lot of people can't afford cars and stuff right now with the high interest rates and everything is going on. This 2024, a lot of people are going to have to stay in the vehicle that they have, meaning that they're going to have to customize it or make it something in their love. And I think SEMA kind of target that in my mind. Because other than that, I didn't really see anything else that kind of stuck out to me. The EV wasn't really being forced on me. And, I didn't get to make it to Apex this year. I got caught in the interview, so I didn't get to make it to Apex. But yeah, I think this year is going to be more driven as in custom building your vehicle, building the car that you have and going from there.
Interesting. Oh, good perspective. Robert, that plays into, and let me ask this because you're a business guy as well. You guys both are. Were you seeing some of that, Robert? Is that why the time was now for you to start Proper D Solutions? And specifically, aren't you targeting Corvettes? Talk a little bit about that.
Well, for me, I love the Corvette platform. I absolutely love everything about it, from the drivetrain to the handling to the sleek styling. It's just, I fell in love with it at a young age, and I had the opportunity to pick one up last year, and it's been off the races since. But really what it comes down to is sharing the love of being an automobile enthusiast with community. And we live in an age where if you've got connections and you've got money, then you can be successful. But if you don't have those connections and you don't know where to go, it's really hard to develop that enthusiasm and to really go down that path and build what you want and make it your own. Right now, the market is so flooded with a lack of skilled work or skilled labor that if you want to call up a performance shop and say, hey, I want to talk about my car, I want to talk about my dream. If you're not trying to put $5,000 in their hand as a deposit and talk to them in 6 months, you're not going to have that conversation.
Right.
So, I wanted an opportunity to be able to reach out to those guys that maybe they don't even know. They don't know what their car can do. Maybe they don't even know what's going to be the most cost-effective step. I've talked to many guys over the last 6 months to a year that, I just took my car to the shop and I had them install these parts. And then, it made some changes, but it wasn't what I wanted. And I could have done this and spent my money better and gotten more out of it. And it's too impersonal. And I wanted to fill that gap.
So let me put you on the spot, Robert. If someone came to you with a C6 and they didn't, to your point, they didn't have a $30,000 engine budget and a $20,000 suspension budget, they had $8,000. Where do you start?
I can do a lot with $8,000 on a C6. Let me tell you. I've spent less than that on mine. You saw what it could do on the track.
Mm-hmm. Do you start engine? Do you go from NA to, something pressurized on the induction? Or do you go suspension? Do you go rear end? Go ahead.
So conversations like that, where they should start and where they don't start often enough in modern performance shops, is what's the end goal? You got to know what the customer wants. Because if that customer wants to daily drive that and enjoy it and they want to pick it up a little bit, my advice is going to be completely different than somebody that's trying to build a highway roller that shows out at night and does dumb stuff. It's going to be completely different than somebody that's going to spend time doing track days every 2 weeks. So really, it just comes down to the customer.
Great points. Randall, let's talk about Space Ghost. By the way, can I tell a story about Randall? And can I,
Yeah.
can we make fun of Randall for a minute? First time I met Randall, he came to an event where I was kind of chief cook and bottle washer and coordinating. And somebody came up to me and said, "Yo, CJ, some dude just pulled up in this badass Camaro, but he parked in the lane blocking access to one of the lots." And so those that know me, smoke's coming out of my ears. I go over, and here's this dude. I wanted to be mad at you, Randall, but the big smile, and you just laughed your way through it. I said, "Yo, buddy, can you move that car?" And you just laughed and moved the car. But anyway, I had to call you out on that. But in all seriousness, you had, an Apex Predator Camaro. Would you have messed with that? Like, would you have modded that? I don't think you did. Go ahead.
No. When I was looking at that car, it was one of my dream cars. And I said, if I get this car, I'm not doing anything on it. The only thing I did was put some stickers on it that gained 2 horsepower, maybe. Once I broke the car in, the car really got fast. I tracked the brakes off that car. Me and Robert had a good couple sessions with each other in that Mustang. Did we not, Robert?
So that was a ZL1 1LE, if I remember right?
Yes. Yeah. I got that car brand new. That was the first car I've ever ordered. And I'll be honest, I sold that car at the beginning of this year. I sold it for profit, and I cried. But just in time, and I'm about to get something else. But to me, when you get a type of car like that, there's no reason to mod it. Like, to me, it gave me all of the performance. It gave me everything I wanted. It was a full track warranty on the car. Wow, and if it would have went away if I touch anything. I'm a warranty guy. I've never had a warranty on my cars. I mostly bought my cars at auctions and stuff. So to me, it was perfect. And I think, if anything, that I wish that GM or Chevy did was add maybe 50 more horsepower. Not a lot. I've seen guys put 800-900 horsepower on that car and can't even get it out of the parking lot. Like, one guy just like, "I hate this car." I was like, "You got too much power on it. It's too light for that." But yeah, I miss it.
Listen, which ties me into the next thing. Fellas, listen, the three of us could do this all night, and sometimes we do, and we will again. I want to have you both back on soon. But let's wrap up. I want to put Robert on the spot. What do you got your eye on right now, man? You got a killer Harley. We're all jealous. You got the Corvette thing. When Robert looks at Auto Trader at night, don't lie, you all do. What do you got your eye on? What's next with 4 wheels on it for Robert?
What's next and what I'd go out and buy if I had the opportunity right now are 2 different things. I'm always looking for my next project, but if I had to go something that's new right now, and this is going to surprise a lot of people that know me, but it would probably be a 2024 GR Supra, specifically the manual.
What?
Yes. I love it. I love what it is, what it stands for and represents as an enthusiast. I love, yes, I get it. It's BMW engine, but it is the spiritual successor to the Mark IV Supra. I mean, that B58 is incredible what the modification scene is doing to it and what it's capable of. And yeah, I just love the styling on it. And I wouldn't have an automatic, but if it were a manual, I'd drool over it.
Wow. Yeah, I wouldn't have predicted that answer.
Caught me off guard. Caught me off guard.
The man is full of surprises, ain't he? But Randall, same question. What you got your eye on right now?
Now, I don't do Auto Trader. I do eBay Motors. Big shout out for my sponsor. No, I'm just playing. I do eBay Motors. I've actually been looking at once you have a ZL1 1LE, there's no other. I've had a Hellcat. I've had I test drove a Mustang, the GT500, and everything on the track. I've had that. Once you have a Camaro ZL1, you have to go either European or exotic. The car that I got to see, I think it was that Cars and Coffee. I think it was the Cars and Coffee was the new Lotus. I love that car, and I love the fact that it's a manual transmission. Robert, I'm like you, man. I'm a manual guy. I love it. I love being able to shift the gears and you just feel cool, man. It just gives you that cool whip feel. But I've been looking at that, and then honestly, I kind of took my eyes off everything just to kind of play my cards right with how everything is going in the market.
Mhm.
If I just leave it at this. My favorite car or exotic is a Lamborghini. It's always been Lamborghini.
Okay.
Second would be McLaren, but I love McLaren just because of the performance. Problem is, I just know a lot of people that own McLarens, and they don't really give me I should go buy one type vibes.
English cars have gremlins. All of them. They all have gremlins. It's always been true. All right, dudes, let's wrap up. Randall, Street Cars 101 magazines, Auto Plaza deals. I don't know when you sleep. Where can we find you, and how do we find you? Go ahead.
For Street Cars 101, you can type in streetcars101.com, or you can just go to search and type in Street Cars 101. I'm all over the internet. I made sure to make my presence on the internet very big and wide to let people know if you can't remember certain parts, you will find me on there. You can go on a lot of stores' websites like Barnes and Noble, Amazon, eBay, a whole bunch of bookstores out west that I'm starting to learn the names of that carry the magazine and stuff like that. Auto Plaza deals, it's actually being rebuilt. It's going to a full drop shipping business with tires. So kind of balancing that and balancing the magazine has been kind of difficult, but you can go there at autoplazadeals.com. And then everything else social media is Street Cars 101.
Fantastic, folks, and check out the description for details on both of these guys and their socials. Robert, what about you? How do we find Proper D? How do we find you? Go ahead.
I got a shop located up at Mooresville. Got brand new social media pages I literally just created, so there's not a lot of updates on them yet. But it's just Proper D Solutions. Same thing on both Facebook and Instagram.
Got it. And folks, you can always reach out to me, and I can connect you to these two great guys. Listen, Robert, Randall, thank you. This was a fantastic. I know I enjoyed this. Hell. Let's do it again soon. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it as well. Thank you, everybody. Be sure to like and subscribe. Hot Seat Automotive Podcast. Your buddy CJ here signing out. Thanks, Phyllis. See you soon.
It's always a pleasure. Have a good one.